Okay, tonight we're going to work on talking about how to start a tree from scratch, because many of us may never have done this with somebody, and we're all going to be faced with having to do it to be able to help our patrons that are getting started start their tree. I keep getting a message here. The account owner can watch this recording if it's stored in the cloud. Okay. I hope all my problems are gone now. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you assist a person from getting started from the beginning. And because we have to have a place to put this tree, we will arbitrarily use FamilySearch, since that's what most of us use. And so it's designed for there, but it could work from any site. It could be building a tree at Ancestry. It could be building a tree on your computer at home using, Ancestral Quest or whatever. And the other thing is, this is quite a long presentation. There'll be several slides where I'll probably gloss over the details, because most of us are fairly familiar with the concepts that are on that slide. But you'll have a chance to see the whole slide deck later on when we send out the recording and the PDF for the slides, so you'll be able to see it that way if you want to have more time with a particular slide. Okay, wanted to start out though with some myths and rabbit holes that exist out there that we need to realize. And sometimes if we haven't started from scratch, we don't realize these things are out there or are that important. So the first one is, don't reinvent the wheel. We're in the 21st century. Now, when I first started, we would have probably said, we all kind of reinvented the wheel because we didn't know where people were that had the information. So we had to build it from scratch. Well, there's no need for that today. We have resources that will get us everything we need. We also can collaborate with people, and we have ways to collaborate. So try not to reinvent the wheel. Easier to find what other people have done and verify what they have. Don't blindly take things though at face value. If you do take things that are already put together, make sure that you verify every name. I hear somebody in the background. Could you please mute yourself? Because I don't have that ability right now. Also, work from the known to the unknown. There's a real temptation when somebody says, well, you're a descendant of Daniel Boone, to jump back to Daniel Boone right away and start researching his ancestry. No, work your way back and see if you really are related to Daniel Boone. Work from the known to the unknown. And everything isn't online. Mr. Slan, you're making noises in the background. Could you mute your microphone? I can tell it's you because your name's down on the screen. Thank you. Everything isn't online. That's the other side of it. So don't expect that you're going to be able to do everything from your computer. Sooner or later, you may need to go to an archive, a library, a courthouse, or somewhere where the records are found. Beware of traditions. And I've found in my experience, the more famous the person is in the tradition, the least likely it is to be accurate. That just tends to be the way it is, at least in my family. So, there's usually a grain of truth in every tradition. It's just a question of how much truth and how much is embellished. Also, be flexible. You're going to make mistakes. Others are going to make mistakes. So, we don't have an eraser on the end of our pencil anymore, but we can erase things in Tree or in any program we use if we make a mistake. So, just Be willing to do that. Don't be so inflexible that, well, I thought I saw it. I thought that's what it was. That must be right. Also, life and pedigrees can be messy. So you have to understand as you get into this that you may turn a rock over that has something very unsavory underneath it. And you're going to have to live with it because that's life. And so just beware. You never know what's going to pop up today when you go to do research. And also, it's much better to say, I don't know, than to make up something or guess. And I see that all the time on Tree. At the end of lines, people just can't be happy that it's an end of line. And they will go and add a family in there to be the parents because they've got to have parents. And they'll just make up people that make no sense whatsoever. And I really feel bad because at the end of almost every line, there's 2 or 3 families like that have been added in that have no bearing on truth and reality. So, just say, I don't know if you don't know. And this is a never-ending search. Pace yourself. That's the main thing. Rome wasn't built in a day. Your tree will never be finished, regardless of the fact that people say it's all done. Because every time you find one more new ancestor, now you got to find 2 more. When you find those 2, now you got to find 4 more. It will never end. So pace yourself and enjoy the ride. And don't limit yourself to one source for information. That's the beauty of our day-to-day. We should be able to find more than one source. So, look for different sources on the same site and check out other sites because they might have online, they might have things that the site you were working on don't have. So don't limit yourself to one source of information. Okay, so where can a person go to get some help to begin with? Well, one of them is when you go to the FamilySearch.org page and you first go into it when you're new, there is a want to get started link right there on the home page. It's called Getting Started. And you can go there and they will walk you through it. Also from the FamilySearch blog, found down at the bottom of most of the pages in FamilySearch, there's a blog entry called Simple Start Family History, which is a blog, but it also goes through the steps of how to get started step by step. So FamilySearch has provided those 2 tools. Also, additional helps for hows and whys. Once you're into it a little bit, you can go to help and learning, and you can get there by going to the little question mark icon and then down to help and learning and click on there. And there you can ask questions, you can find articles, videos, all kinds of things that can help you with specific problems that you're having. So you've got those 3 things that can help you, besides having hopefully a consultant sitting next to you, giving you advice. Okay, so getting started. The way you do this is you start with yourself. So if you have somebody that's never done anything and they want to build their tree, you say, okay, we're going to start with you. Gather everything you have laying around your house, any papers or anything like that. Interview your relatives. And then after you put that down, record it somehow, however you want to do it, on a computer, a spreadsheet, a Word document, on a piece of paper, however you want to do it, record all this and pick a place to start, remembering what I said at the beginning. Start near the beginning and work your way out. So start with the present and find where your first hole is. Is it you need to find out more about your dad, or is it your mom's mother? What is it you want to start with? But start nearest you and start by reviewing online records for that person. Use FamilySearch and the other major sites. And after you've found everything you can find, update what you have in the way of your records. There'll be pedigree charts and family group sheets eventually, and we'll talk about those. And then after you've updated what you have, you go back to step 5, which is pick a place to start, find your new place to start, and go through this again. And when you're finished, go back up to step 5, pick a new person or place to start, and go back through this again. This is a research process. It may not take a lot of true research because you may be able to find things just through your survey of the internet, but this is the way we do it. And you'll be doing this the rest of your life. Like Groundhog's Day or the Groundhog Day movie, and it goes over and over and over. We do the same thing. Hopefully not with the same question or problem, but with a different focus each time. Okay, remember family tree is unique. It's a one tree for all. There's no my trees here. You go to Ancestry if you want that. So you have to learn to collaborate. And, you're working with 1.6 billion people in that tree. So there's a need for collaboration to work with other people that are putting things in there. And B, you really want to work through that tree, because you'd be surprised how much of your pedigree is already there, even if it's a person who's just starting. The beginners often have much of their tree right there. And the goal, of course, is to have one person for each record and tree. That leads us to duplicates. We know about duplicates. We know how they get there. And we know the process to bring them together is called merging. I don't think we need to spend much time there because I think we probably all spent more time than we ever wanted to merging records. Okay, there are living records and deceased records. And we have to help people understand that those living records are only viewable by the person who created them, or in the case of you, when FamilySearch created your account, they made a copy of you, and only you can see that record. So you didn't really make it, but you're the only person that can see it, as opposed to the records of those that are deceased that everybody can see. And those are the records that we're trying to get to have one record per person. There can be multiples of living people, and it doesn't matter because only one person can see them. Okay, so our job's going to be get you in the tree, or whoever the person is you're working with, add their living family, connect them to the deceased family, and you have a tree. And in some cases, it goes very, very rapidly. For others, they may have to add a lot of deceased people, but sooner or later, it tends to be that they tie in to those 1.6 billion people in tree. And I say virtually every family will have that happen sooner or later, often more sooner than later. Okay, so again, remember, don't forget, you got to do some homework at the beginning. When the person comes in and says, I want to start, usually what you end up doing is sending them home to do their homework, to write down everything they can remember about the family: names, dates, places, relationships. It really helps to have all 4 of those. To find John Jones with only the name, hard. Find John Jones, born 1935, a little easier. Find John Jones, born 1935 in Oklahoma. It's getting easier. Find John Jones, born in 1935 in Oklahoma, married to Mary Smith. Now you may probably be able to find him without much trouble. That's the kind of thing you need, as much detail as you can get. They tend to want to just give you the name and say, hey, here, find my family. It takes more than just a name. Gather everything they can. You'd be surprised what they might have laying around the house that has genealogical information in it: documents, pictures, newspapers. And then contact the living people and pick their brains while they're still alive. Okay, your goal is to get people back before 1950 if they're US. Why? Because we have the 1950 census now. Once we can get into that census with our pedigree, things tend to open up. And so that's our goal. And so we need to get back 70 years. which means we need to get back probably 2 or 3 generations back. And that's about where people's memories end. So it's a real challenge to really help them, because their homework, especially getting some of the older living relatives to help out, is really vital. Okay, you have to have an account. We all know that. They've made it easier and easier. This is the sign-up page now, and this is essentially all there is to it. Your name, your birth date, your gender, and then if you're a member of the church, you click the box and then add your membership number that you can get out of Tools or from the ward clerk. And then you click continue, and all you do is give them username and password, which you better remember, or you'll forever have problems. And you'll have to supply either a phone number or an email so that they have a way to connect with you and verify your account and that sort of thing. Help you out if you forget the username or password. Okay, once you've done those steps and you say you gave them an email, you'll get a confirming email. Once you click on that and say, yes, that's me, then you'll be asked to sign in. And when you sign in, like I said, don't forget to write down what you use for username and password, because they have that nice little box there. Keep me signed in for 2 weeks. I honestly think that's there so that you can bypass having to put it in just long enough to forget it. I really do think that's why it's there. But they say it's so that you don't have the inconvenience of having to sign in all the time. But anyway, so what I did to make things so I could do it from scratch, to be honest with you, Rustin is my grandson, one of my grandsons, and I know he's not into genealogy, so I created an account for him so that I could do this from scratch. And so we're going to build Rustin's pedigree tonight. Don't forget that username and password. Write it down somewhere. Okay. Learn the tools of your trade. There's 2 tools, main tools. One's a pedigree chart. This is the landscape view in FamilySearch. There's other views. They have a portrait pedigree. They have a fan chart, which is my favorite. We'll see that later. But the pedigree shows you your ancestors. This is your tree, as people call it. The other view is a family group sheet. And in FamilySearch, the family group sheets are very truncated. Then in this case, here's the parents, Benjamin Carter and Grace Cummings, and here are their children. And every person in FamilySearch has 2 family groups that show. One with them as a parent, with their spouse, and then their children. And then there'll be another one with them as a child, with their siblings and their parents up at the top. So there'll be 2 different family groups that can show for a person. And of course, their tree will show for them. When you want to see the details about a person, you'll click on one of the people in the tree. A card comes up. You click on where it says person, and their person page comes up. This is what a person page looks like. And it's there that we will add or edit the vital information, birth, marriage, and death, and that sort of thing, where we can see their families that they're in, both their family where they're a spouse and their family where they're a child. And so this is how FamilySearch is set up. We all know this. Okay, so we want to get started. When I first sign in as Rustin, since they know he's a new person, they have right in the middle of the page, hey, let's click here and get started. Well, we're going to bypass that. It'll walk you through the steps, step by step. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. We'll go up there and click on Family Tree, and then click on Tree and see what comes up. And this is what comes up for a new user usually, and very often. Now, if they're LDS, they might have part of their pedigree or even all their pedigree, or they might have something just like this. So all we have is Rustin. He's in high school, so he doesn't have a spouse. He doesn't have children, I hope. And he has parents missing. And so we're going to have to build this record. But we need to do our homework first. So the main homework we did is we wrote down his pedigree. We went asking the family members, my daughter, her husband, for names. We got the names of his parents, of Rustin's parents, Dustin and Heidi, and then their parents. They're all in yellow boxes because we're all living still. So Rustin has 2 generations of all living relatives. And then he has one great-grandmother that's still alive, Lee Davis. And the rest of the great-grandparents have deceased. So what we need to do, if we remember that little chart, we start with ourselves, then we add the living. So we're going to go in and add the living, which is going to be easy. We're just going to put their names in. Don't need dates and places, anything like that, because only the person that's running Rustin's account can see these names. So we go back to the chart and we click Add Father, and we go in and we just put his father's name in there. We do click Living, and then click Next. And the system tries to find duplicates, except when it's a living record, it'll say, gee, I can't search anything because I can't search for living people. So you need to click Create Person. So you do that, and that puts Dustin in tree. Now Rustin has a father, Dustin. I know that's confusing, but those are their names. Okay, so then we go through and do the same thing over and over for all the living people, and about 2 minutes later, voila, we have 3 generations now in tree. And it was just that simple. Really easy to do. Okay, so now we're at that point where, ignoring the one great-grandparent that's alive, we need to start adding in the deceased people. Okay, so we'll go up there to where Rustin's grandmother and grandfather on his father's side are, and we'll go and add Denise's mother. We're going to go add the mother down here. We have Russ and Denise here. Russ's information would come out of the box and go up to the top off of the screen, and Denise would come out and come down here. So these are her parents, the mother's parents, and we're going to add the mother's mother. Okay, so we knew her name was Norma Jean Crane. We know that she's deceased, so we click deceased, and she's a female. Since it said add a mother, female was already clicked. We put in the date and place of birth. We started putting in the date for death and the place, and I stopped it there to let you see that you don't normally have to type everything out. You're after getting what they call a standardized place and date. These standards are things that the computer recognizes and can use to do better searches. And so as you start typing this, Marysville, Snohomish, Washington, I don't have to go any farther because it is popped up down here. And it's a city. This was in 2020, so it was after 1898 up to the present. So I'm going to click on that, and it will automatically fill in that box that I was typing in. And it will now be standardized. The dates were already standardized. FamilySearch likes day, month, year, with the month 3 letters. And if you try to do it any other way, they'll give it to you back this way, or with the month spelled out. That works also. But they like day, month, year as the system for standardization. So we try to do that with them. And then when we're finished, we click Next. And what it does is it looks to see if they can find her. She's deceased. She should be able to be found if she's in there. It says there are 12 possible duplicates. The first one starts looking good because it's got the same exact birth date. It's also in Sandusky, Ohio. It's a Norma Jean, but it's a different last name. Heminger, as opposed to Crane, and it really is Heminger because her father's a Heminger, but she's married to a Deebley. Then there's a Norma Rustin, which isn't the right last name, and the birth date's got the right day and month, that the year's off by 2, but the death date's right, and the death place is right, and in asking the family, the parents are right. So somebody messed up the name when they put it in and put Norma Rustin, and there's plenty of Rustins in this family. So you can see where that may have come from. But she's obviously a Crane because her father's Archie Lee Crane. And so this is her, in spite of the fact the name is butchered. And so we're going to click Add Match down there for her, knowing we're going to have to do some editing because it's messed up. And so we put her in, and notice that she doesn't come in by herself. She comes in with parents because her parents are listed. But we're going to have to do some editing. So we click on her name and then click on person to get that person page. And when that person page comes up, we're going to click on the little edit right behind her name. And we're going to go change it to Crane and give a reason. Say Rustin isn't her surname. She was born Norma Jean Crane based on personal knowledge of her daughter. And then we can click Save. And now she's Norma Jean Crane. And we need to check for duplicates because we've changed her name. Now we need to check to see if there's any other Norma Jean Cranes in the system. It says there aren't any, but that doesn't mean there isn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to search the find similar people. And when we do, we get a sister of hers, Jornetta Lee Crane. That's not her. There's a Bobby Jean Crane. That's not her. So we couldn't find any. So we're okay with that, at least so far. We can feel safe for a while, at least, that there's no more duplicates for Norma. So now what are we going to do? We need to try to get her husband in there. But look what happens. We go to the tree and getting ready to add a husband and see what happened. We brought in the whole wedge of the tree. That's the power of this 1.6 billion people, is that for many of them, they come with a tree. The thing is, you really need to check all those to make sure they're really Norma Jean Crane's ancestors. You shouldn't just trust other people's work. You should kind of go down through that and take time and check them all out to see if they're really all accurate. Okay, so now let's do her spouse. So we're going to click on spouse. And we were given Don Fraser because he went by Don, that he was born about 1930. He died in 2016, but my son-in-law couldn't remember the exact date. So he has Don Fraser, 1930 to 2016. We'll click next and see what happens. Comes up with one possible match, Donald Lee Fraser. But this is a guy that died in 2014, and Dustin was real sure he died in 2016. And he died in Missouri, and Dustin said, no, he died in California. So that guy's not him. He may not be in tree. So what we're going to need to do is go over here and click Create Person. So we create him, and now he's in there. He doesn't come with anything because we created him. But notice the little blue boxes. We love the little blue boxes, the hint boxes. So we're going to look at Don Fraser's hints and see if they'll give us anything of use. And on Don Fraser, it says there's a Jerry Don Fraser, Missouri marriage record. In fact, there's two of them, so it's probably the same marriage recorded twice or in two different groups of records. But that's interesting. It's Jerry Don, not just plain Don. The key will be, is he married to Norma Jean Crane? So we'll look at the second one there. Jerry Don Fraser, married in 1953, and the spouse's name is Norma Jean Crane. So this is him. So his real name is Jerry Don Fraser. He was born in 34, not 1930. And he has a mother, Mrs. Opal Frazier. So we got all kinds of good information there. So we'll do click and review, and that's going to get us into SourceLinker, where we can link things up. This is the old version. The new version would allow us to do our editing that we're going to need to do, because the marriage record said he was born about 1934, and we had 1930, and his name needs to be changed. With the new SourceLinker, we could do it right here. So anyway, we go ahead and we source Jerry Dawn, and we source Norma Jean by doing compare. And since we had no parents for Jerry Dawn, we're actually going to be doing an ad for Opal. So once we've done Jerry and Norma, they're green. That means they're done being sourced. We're ready now to work on that ad. The first step is to put a person in tree, because they will need to know, is there a person already in tree that's Mrs. Opal Frazier or not? So when it opened it up, it said there wasn't anybody. It gave me the boxes to fill in. The first thing I did is I took Frazier out. There's no last name. You can't see Opal. It's up here. There's no last name, because Frazier's probably not her last name. That's her married name. She's a female. I marked her as deceased because her child was born in 1934. More than likely, she was born more than 110 years ago. So I said, based on her age, the age of her child, she should have been born shortly after 1900. And I'll go ahead and create her. And the system's not going to come up with anybody. And so they went ahead and let me put her in. So at that point, I can stop and go back and do the editing. We know how to edit. So we just click on, where it says edit in front of Dawn's name, and then go through and fix it. And then after we fix it, I noticed there was a possible duplicate up there for a Jerry Frazier. I had Dawn. This one has Jerry. His name's really Jerry Dawn, as we have it edited now. So we went and looked at that, and sure enough, this is the normal kind of duplicate you're going to find. I've got a record for Jerry Dawn that I'm making as I work my way up a tree. It has spouse and children and no parents. Here's a record for Jerry Frazier where somebody's probably doing descendancy work, and they have him with his parents and siblings, but no spouse. And so this is the most wonderful merge you want to do, because when you're finished, you're going to have a complete record for Jerry Dawn with both his parents and his family, his spousal family. So we say, yes, continue. And then when we get all done, he's got a complete record going both directions. We know how to do it, so we'll just jump through it. And look what we have when we get done. This tree is growing rapidly. Now there's a hole where that opal is, but we now have a name for Opal. She's Opal England, because that other Jerry Dawn had parents. The Jerry Frazier record had parents, and it said it was Opal England. So we even know her last name now. Now, you see on here a normal situation that's kind of confusing to people, where we have Jerry Dawn Frazier in two families as a child. We know it's the same record because they're both in black. That means we're on that record, on that person's person page. And if you look at the little numbers behind them, they both end in XG3. So we know that that's the same record. That is not two different Jerry Dawn Fraziers. It's one Jerry Dawn in two families, one with both parents and then one with that Opal, the one that we created. So what we need to do is clean this up. The easy way to do this is to just go down here and take this Jerry Dawn out of this incomplete family. And so that's what we're going to do by clicking the little edit button by Jerry Don's name. We're ultimately going to want to remove him from this family. We're going to be removing him. But when we do that, that's going to kick this opal loose out into the tree. So the first thing we're going to do is very carefully make sure we copy that number by clicking on it, and it copies it to the clipboard. Then we can go ahead and click remove and take Jerry out of this family. That leaves him with his mom and dad. Okay, then once and that's the step right there that we do it with, we click remove parents. Now we've got this Opal England record, and we have this other Opal record. We need to merge them. It says there's no possible duplicates, so we're going to merge by ID. So we go in and put the ID in, click continue, and we're going to be merging the two records together. And I don't think we need to spend time with that. Now, Opal still has no parents. So what are we going to do for her to grow the tree? Very simple. We're just going to go look at FamilySearch by going over where it says FamilySearch and see if we can find a record. She's born in 1907. Probably there's a 1910 census or something like that up there that will name her parents. And so we go looking, and sure enough, the very first record's a 1910 census. She's shown as 5 years old. That's off by 2 years, typical for a census. Said she was born in Missouri in Carroll County. That's where the family lived. Her father was Ed England. Her mother was Nellie England. It's a bunch of kids, but it says it's already attached. That little tree means there's already an opal in there, but the system said there's no duplicates. So what's going on? So we click on that, and it shows that the name is showing as Oral, O-R-A-L instead of O-P-A-L, but it's a female. And it's from that 1910 census. I went and looked at it. And when you know the name you're looking for and you look at it on a kind of messy handwriting, you can usually see the name. When you're a transcriber, you don't know what the name's supposed to be. You just have to do the best you can. And that's kind of what happened here. The transcriber tried. They came up with Oral, which makes no sense, but it was really Opal. So we're going to merge an Oral and an Opal. And as you see, she comes in a family with her parents, which is what we were missing, which is wonderful. So we'll go ahead and do a merge by ID using this ID number to merge in with Opal England. And so this is the merge. And again, what we're going to do is you're going to get the record we had, which had no parents, but had the spouse and kids, with a record that has the parents and siblings, but no spouse and kids. So we end up with a complete record. And when we're done, we still have one little hole because the Englands haven't been traced any farther. So there's a place to work. Out of all these generations, that's really the only hole left in that wedge of the tree. Now, to do the rest of the family is very simple. You get over on the Given side and Blessing side, you have two researchers that have been doing a lot of work, a lot of temple work, so the names are in tree. It's going to be very simple to add that part of the tree in. I found if you know the people are in tree and they're married and they should be found together, the simplest thing to do is just put in the husband's name, Joseph James Givens, and the wife's name, Jenny Elizabeth Hale, and do a search. You don't need dates, you don't need places, you just need to mark them as deceased and go from there. And you're going to find them almost every time, unless it's, William Jones and Mary Smith. And you might have trouble with that one. But with most any other couple on earth, they're going to be in the first 2 or 3 names that come up. So I click next, and sure enough, even though there's 12 matches, here's the first one. And it is my dad. with his 2 wives. So when I say add match for that, it's then going to say, okay, which match do you want? Which wife do you want in there? Well, in my case, it would be the second family because my mother was Jenny. And so we need to click select couple. And we do that, this whole wedge shows up. And then we can do it again for Barbara, and that whole wedge will show up. And then that would just leave us to build the Lowry part of the line like we were doing this first section. It'll probably take a little bit of work, but this is a very typical situation for building trees from scratch. It's not hard, you just have to stick with it. Remember, if you need help, we have the little help button at the top. That takes us down to a pop-up where there's a place to look at selected topics based on what page you're on. It'll give you some articles you can look at, or you can go down to Help and Learning, which is what we used to call the Help Center, and do a search there for whatever you're looking for. Or you can go to the community and you can, it's like Facebook for genealogy. And there's a place there where you can ask questions, or you can go to a location and research, and you can try to get your help there. That's where I was going tonight to do some cleanup work, and I needed some help. So I went over there and left my questions and got answers within an hour. And there's also Contact Us, where you would find out the local family history center, if you're LDS, your local consultants, things like that. The one thing that isn't on here is there's also search articles and lessons right here at the top, which is an unfiltered search. It'll search through everything in the system. Okay, help and learning itself. This is where you can go to from that drop down. It allows you to either go to a search bar, or you can click on specific topics like family tree or memories or partners or DNA, get involved, and that'll help filter down the results to your question. You ask your question there. Most of our questions tonight would have all come out of family tree, because that's basically where we were working. Okay, so that's where the help center is now. It looks a little different. And then the community, if you click over there, will look something like this. And essentially, you're going to want to probably either go to general questions or to family tree right here. Most of the questions I've asked is over here in the family tree section. Excuse me. And there you would ask your question. You could ask your questions up here or search for answers up here, but they have volunteers there that monitor questions looking to help you. So you'll get fairly fast answers. Okay, Contact Us. I always want to bring this up because it has changed this last year. It used to be a 24/7 service. It isn't 24/7 anymore. They just don't have the volunteers. Since COVID, people just haven't come back to the volunteer mode. And so they've had to scale back. If you want to make a phone call, the number is still the same old number, 866-406-1830. But it's only good in North America from Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Sunday, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Those are mountain time. So for us in California, that's 7 to 7, Monday through Saturday, or noon to 7 on Sundays. The rest of the time, the phones are off. They still accept email questions. The funny thing there was they tried to stop them, and the public came unglued. So they reluctantly put the emails back in. They really want you to go over to the community. And quite frankly, for most cases, that works fine. Like I said, I did it today and I got answers back within an hour. And so why send an email and wait 2 or 3 days when you can put it in the community and get an answer back, an accurate answer back in an hour or so? So that's how Contact Us works now. And for many of us that work in a center at night, we have to know that because it's going to affect us. You really need to use the community in the evenings. So in conclusion, I hope this has helped you a little bit get over the hump of what to do when somebody starts from scratch. And just remember, it really isn't hard. You saw how fast that tree grew. And the amount of research I had to do was negligible. I only looked up a couple of records in the whole time that we did this. The rest of it, the people were there. And you'll be surprised how often that's the case. And so, it's not hard at all compared to what it used to be like. And with a little practice, even you can do it. Truly, every one of us listening can do this. So, questions? Do we have any questions?